All right, welcome guys to our second iteration of Builders Lounge by Pintu in collaboration with Ethereum Indonesia. So we're gonna start our event right now. So do please fill out the seats. There's a lot of empty seats here in the front, to the left and to the right. So yeah. Okay, so before we start, I do wanna first of all, welcome you, of course, to this event. We have a great turnout. We were expecting 100 people to come, but the RSVP so far is 160. So a round of applause to everybody. So we actually have a pretty strong community here in Indonesia in Web3 world, right? So I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. There's a lot of people that we can connect with. So our hope is to connect people to each other, especially Web3 builders and developers, and we just want to nurture this ecosystem together and build while it's whether it's whether it's bull market or bear market, we're gonna build together. Anyway, we want to introduce you to this special thing here. We actually have an NFT for you guys. We have a POAP available, so if you can just scan the barcode and fill out your address, your MetaMask address, and your email, we can send this NFT to you. So this is actually not the real NFT. We're gonna customize it for this event, and we're gonna send it to you in a week's time. So yeah, a special NFT for you guys. Fun fact, this NFT is actually usable. So you can actually get points in Pintu community. So if you join us in Telegram or our Discord, you can actually get points through this NFT and get prizes from it. So yeah, we're inviting you to join our community in Pintu. But without further ado, before we go to the first session, I want to invite Brian as a representative of Ethereum Indonesia to just give us a quick introduction of Ethereum Indonesia.
Welcome everyone. Thanks again for coming, particularly those who flew into Jakarta just for this event. My name is Brian. I am the co-founder of Copra Finance, and I also help to organize ETH Indonesia on the site with a few other folks here. In the beginning, we decided to start ETH Indonesia because we think there's a need for a platform for Web3 builders in Indonesia to connect and to grow together. Indonesia, we're the largest economy in Southeast Asia. We have the most population in Southeast Asia, and we have the biggest Web2 talent pool in Southeast Asia. As obviously low-hanging fruits to be converted to Web3 builders. So it was honestly a little bit sad to see that the Web3 community here was not as vibrant as it could be, especially compared to our neighbors, Singapore and Vietnam. And so the hope is with ETH Indonesia, starting with this first event, co-hosted with Pintu, sponsored by Saison. Thank you, Chin. The hope is that for this community to be a platform where we all can learn deeper together about Web3. We can collaborate to build new products in Web3, and also to inspire and to bring more Indonesians to build in the Web3 space. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you so much again for coming, and hope everyone enjoys the event. Thanks.
Awesome. So yeah, we're going to start. But before we do start, we actually have Singaporeans in the house. I just want to welcome the Singaporeans who came exclusively to join this event with us today. So if you're a Singaporean who came all the way from Singapore, can you raise your hand? Chinan? There you go. Whoa, a lot of Singaporeans in the house to join ETH Indonesia. So yeah, welcome to our Singaporean friends. So this event will so the first panel will be full English. I did instruct the second panelist to be bilingual. So apologies if there's Indonesian terms that will be thrown out for the Singaporean friends. But yeah, before we start, oh, sorry. So without further ado, I'm gonna invite Chen En as our moderator for our first panel. For round of applause for Chen En, everybody, and then our two panelists, Jeff and Marco. Round of applause, everybody.
Hello. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming down. Always great to see such a packed room with so many people. Really excited that we're all here. I'll kick off by introducing myself. My name is Chinan. I am from Saison Capital. We are an early stage VC that's based in Singapore, actively investing in both Web2 and Web3 companies. Very excited to be active supporters of the Web3 Indonesia founder ecosystem, having invested in about 5 or so companies here and always looking to do more. And really kind of the topic we're talking about today is something that's very close to my heart, right? Which is Southeast Asia as a platform for Web3 builders and founders. So before we get started on this panel, just want a quick show of hands. How many of you are Web3 founders? Oh, look at that. That's a lot of you. All right. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you all for coming down. Well, this panel is very much for each and every one of you. So I'll start off by asking our established guest a few questions, but then I'm going to turn the floor over to you. But without further ado, I'd like to invite my two very esteemed guests to introduce themselves. I think most of you will actually already know them, but why not, Jeff? You give us a quick intro of yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Chinan. So, hi guys, my name is Jeff. I am CEO and founder of PINTU. We started the company around 3 years ago, 2020 in April, we launched PINTU. And we basically serve the Indonesian market to buy and sell crypto. We try to be the easiest place for Indonesians to make their first purchase and to trade their crypto. And I think today we serve over 100 different, almost 120, 130 different cryptocurrencies. And our goal really is to drive the Indonesian users closer towards Web3. I think what we've built so far is the first step to get there, but there's still a lot of things that we need to do to bring Web3 closer to the Indonesians, and that's where our journey will take us. Thank you.
Very nice, Jeff. Thank you. Marco.
A mic check. First of all, thanks, Jinan, as well as PINTU for hosting this event. My name is Marco. I'm the research director of Digital Asset Research. We are a US-based firm in the research and data company that mainly helps traditional financial players such as your Bloomberg, your London Stock Exchange, get into the crypto space. So throughout the years, we've been serving a lot of institutions, and we're seeing right now shifts towards Asia and what their appetites are. So yeah, very excited to meet people here in Indonesia that is going to drive forward the growth of Web3.
Amazing. I'm really excited to hear what both of you have to say. But let's start off by getting the elephant out of the room. If you open up PINTU, you open up any app today, shit, it's all red, right? Prices are down, markets are terrible. Last week, SEC went on this witch hunt, hunting after Binance first, then Coinbase next. And so that really brings the question, right? In this current climate where it's so challenging, what can Web3 founders look forward to? Maybe Jeff, would you like to start us off with that?
Sure. It's quite interesting you bring this topic up. I was actually just in Paris last week talking to another crypto founder who was also talking about how this bear market affects development. And I think it really boils down to your faith. And I think back about when we were in 2018, 2019, it was really difficult as a Web3, as a crypto founder, to find faith in the ecosystem. And back then, the question was very much more about an existential question, like, is there actually a use case for crypto? I think today that proving that there is a use case and proving that there is value is something that crypto has already done. I think we can put that aside to to validate that crypto actually has value, right? Especially for stuff like cross-border remittances, DeFi, financial products that people weren't able to access prior to the development of crypto. Now they can access anywhere in the world. So there's a lot of value there. And so putting that aside, I think people now in crypto should already have, or you gotta have that faith built up. Now the question then becomes like survivability. And I think that's the question that's on a lot of founders' minds today. Like, how can we survive the bear market to ride into the bull market? And I think talking to a lot of people, I think you just gotta hustle and you just gotta be scrappy. You know, you just gotta stay in the game long enough for the bull market to come around. And that's sort of like my perspective.
I love that. Really about surviving, right? And so I guess following up from that, Marco, I'm gonna get your view, right? People always view this US as the reference point, right? You have Silicon Valley, they set the bar for everything. But then now they are so anti-crypto, or at least the regulators are. What implications does that on the rest of the world?
Yeah, so first of all, I think Jeff touched on a very important point. The big difference compared to 2018, the last bear market, is that now we actually have protocols working, right? We have DeFi, we have NFTs, we have restaking going on. It was a completely different environment back then because you were literally, it was unclear whether crypto is going to stay or not. I think to sort of answer your question, despite the regulatory scrutinies that we are seeing outside right now, the main difference is that crypto as an asset class is no longer being questioned. That is what we are seeing from the large institutional players. They might be a bit more cautious. They're not going to pour perhaps as much capital in the short term because of the regulators, but their conviction as to whether, okay, this is a real asset class and there is something here that is going to continuously emerge. And believe me when I said that the bigger firms who are global, they are indeed looking into, okay, what are Singapore doing? What are Hong Kong doing, right? The Manasa region, Europe, they recently have a new regulations called MiCA that is a little bit much more comprehensive than what's available in the US. So I guess the key takeaway is that as an asset class for builders, it's still a much more positive environment compared to 2018.
Yeah, I think there's this sense that it's different from the previous bear market where they went through, right? So we've talked about the global, but let's bring it closer back to home. Indonesia itself, right? We see a very vibrant Web3 ecosystem. There's so many Web3 founders in the audience. Jeff, I have a question for you. Is Indonesia enough for Web3 founders, or do they have to look outside and grow beyond?
So I think you got to look at it from two perspectives. One, from building and resource finding talent here in Indonesia. And the second point is the market. I think as a Web3 founder, you should always think global. At the end of the day, I've always, said to my team, like, crypto is a global play, whether you like it or not. The use cases, the value really comes and is driven by being able to apply it to a global user base. And so I think as a Web3 founder, you need to have that mindset of being global first rather than local first when you're marketing it to your users. On the talent side, I think Indonesia is still developing its talent pool, especially in Web3. I think when I first started in 2018-19, like, you can really count with your hands and with your fingers, like how many developers there are in the market, and it's really tough to find developers. I think now the talent pool has grown considerably from back then, but it's still not to the level of other Southeast Asian neighbors that we have. For example, Singapore, Vietnam, even Malaysia has a lot of Web3 talent, and so I think that's where the challenge is for us in terms of the talent.
Got it. So talent is one of the key issues. So Marco, in terms of like trends that would accelerate this adoption, what are you seeing in Southeast Asia? And is there anything that's unique to Indonesia?
First of all, that's a great question. So I think the number one uniqueness of Southeast Asia is definitely how much of the day-to-day transactions that we're doing is with mobile. And that's really not a trend that you have seen in other more developed Western countries. And I also believe that, like what Jet said, crypto is global first. That is both an opportunity and also a risk that founders need to be aware of. Opportunities, obviously, that means you are competing and you are your TAM or just the target market is a lot bigger from day one. At the same time, that also means that you're not only competing with your local founders, but also you have to be able to understand what is going on at the global landscape. So I guess not really perhaps a unique trend to Indonesia, but I would argue that more education, and especially because although we are the most populous country, perhaps we're not the most well-versed in English. Like that's a really, I think, like a big factor for the growth of crypto in Indo. Yeah, so that's the number one thing.
Got it. And when we talk about education, I want to double click on that because I think Pintu does a great job at it. But then if you think about the market, the number one reason people always say about Web3 or crypto is, the market's so small. And why? Because people come in, at least these detractors say, people come in for speculative reasons. They just want to gamble, they just want to make a quick buck. So Jeff, how do you think about educating people on crypto, all the benefits beyond just its speculative use case?
So we have the section within Pintu's app called Academy, where we really try to teach users the fundamentals behind crypto, down to the very basic fundamentals. I think that's one way we try to approach it. I think the second way we also try to approach it is by actually showing them actual use cases where they can actually use crypto for a lot more easier day-to-day transactions or day-to-day use cases. And I think that's something we also try to cover through our educational content. But we also have to take a step back. For Indonesians, the concept of investing is very new, right? Penetration for investments is still very low. And actually, within the last 3 to 4 years, the amount of people who own crypto now is actually either on par or even more than equity investors in Indonesia. So we as platforms in Indonesia, we don't only have to teach users about the concept of investing, but we also have to teach users the concept of crypto. So that's like the challenge for us. It does help that speculation drives interest into the crypto ecosystem. Now I think if you think about all the other different cycles prior to this, usually there's a lot of people come in, some people go out, but the ones who actually stay are the ones who actually start to build. And I think that's one of the great things actually about these cycles as well.
Yeah, you see all these, I like to call them Web3 tourists, right? Whether they are founders, whether they're investors, they are all here when everything is good, it's summer, but then now it's winter and everyone's kind of leaving and going back to or changing to AI, right? So I guess Marco, so like we're talking about areas beyond speculative use cases. You in your role, you see a global view of what's possible, what's out there. What's perhaps 1 or 2 use cases that excite you?
Yeah, so first of all, this might be a cliche topic because these days I would split this into 2 different groups, basically. So the first one is that tokenization is really big in the Western markets. I think that's because for these large financial players, that's the easiest way, the most compliant. There are clear ways that they can, like what if I can tokenize T-bills and make the settlement T+1 minute instead of a couple days. So that's perhaps the more interesting, but perhaps less relevancy to what on the ground bootstrap builders are actually building. Now, I think on the Web3 pure play on-chain builder side, what's interesting is that the infrastructure that enables you to make dApps, whether that's projects like Lens that we are seeing right now, those are starting to become much more of a reality. A few years ago, the concept of having truly decentralized social media seems like far-fetched, just from like what's possible on the tech side. Now we're seeing a lot of these implementations. We have Damus, if I pronounce it correctly. It's the Bitcoin one that's out of Jack Dorsey. Twitter has Blue Sky and a bunch of others. So to me, on the non-asset class side, but actually consumer-facing app, the technology is starting to catch up. Now it's just a matter of like, okay, when this actually scales to certain magnitudes, do we need to then again pause and actually wait for scalability to hit on the underlying blockchain, or is it enough? Well, I guess that's for the second panel.
Got it. And hold it right at Marco, right? I want to ask a follow-up question to make it more relevant to our audience today. These are the exciting opportunities that are out there, but it's also common that, or at least before crypto in Web2 world, people always say, oh, let's see what happens in US, in China, and then Southeast Asia, copycat region, right? Are there opportunities that are unique to Southeast Asia, to Indonesia, that our founders and this audience can potentially leverage on?
So perhaps on a specific examples as to what kind of applications would be unique to Southeast Asia. First of all, I would say that's a loaded question. So thank you for that. I do think the edge that we have here is that we have a much more robust growth, as well as the regulations are not as, well, I don't like to use the word strict, but it's not as unclear as how it is in the US. So when you see your big DeFi founders, your OG DeFi founders, they're saying, oh, protocols are moving abroad. That's a real thing, right? Like that's not just something that is a talking point. We're seeing protocols expanding to APAC region, to LATAM, to Southeast Asia. So the way that I see it is that now is the time for these emerging markets to really take on the mantle and then see what kind of products that I can create that tap into the global audience first and foremost. And then how do I sort of localize that product once I see some product market fit? Yeah.
Got it, got it. And I guess the last question before we open up to the floor, so get ready your questions. Jeff, right? We have a lot of Web3 builders over here, and you built and you raised a fair bit of funding for what is probably one of the most iconic companies in crypto in Indonesia. Let's talk a bit about what it takes for builders in Indo to succeed building in Web3, right? What's perhaps the 1 to 2 most important things they should keep in mind, whether it's from a funding point of view, whether it's from a talent, whether it's from a market point of view, that you would share with the founders in the audience?
I think there's one thing I think that stands above everything else, in my opinion. And I think that's, well, there's I think 3 things that's very important, but I think one sits above the rest. The 3 things are, I think, building that team. I think capital is important, the second part. And the third part is product market fit. And I think for me personally, product market fit is the most important. I think without product market fit, everything else goes away. And I think it's very important to listen to your customers, to really create and develop a product that solves a customer pain point. And I think once you are able to crack that, everything else will follow. I think your customers will come. It's much easier then to get funding and also build a team then around that product. So I really think finding PMF is the most crucial step in building a company, in my opinion.
Thank you. And just to add on to that, I think it's also important to have that conviction also, right? Because I think the markets today are still relatively small, and this is not just in Indo, it's globally, right? But within that segment which you are serving, to really find the product market fit and deliver value to them.
100%. So conviction, faith is a prerequisite to product market fit. So you need to first have that conviction and belief that like you are trying to solve a problem that exists. And once you're at it, don't give up. Like I think you need to be stubborn and you need to keep coming back towards that problem. Your first product might not be successful, but that's okay. It happens all the time. Like we also failed at our first products when we first launched. When we first launched stablecoin, Rupiah token, didn't have that much traction. And I'm happy to share it with you guys because we didn't solve a critical part of the step, which was the user's ability to keep it in their own wallet. And then after that, we learned from that mistake, and then that's why we also developed Pintu as part of a solution for that stablecoin. So I think failure will always come, but just don't be disheartened. You just need to keep at it and have your conviction to drive you towards your goals.
Thank you very much, Jeff. All right, let's open up the floor for questions at this point. This event is yours. All of you braved the Jakarta traffic to be here. So make good use of this to ask our esteemed panelists, Marco and Jeff. Anyone? Yes, over there.
Check, mic check. Okay, hello everyone. Good evening, everyone. So I introduce myself. My name is Mamet from ID NFT community. So silent. You have applause, guys. Let's go. Let's make it chill. Okay. I want about asking. Yeah, if I'm sorry if my English not very well, but I try like did say think global, right? Okay. I want to ask about what the biggest fear about the Web3 technology. Your biggest fear, because we're talking about the important to Web3 builder, the potential, but I want to know and curious about your fear about this technology. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks. That's a great question, actually. Of course, as a founder, you think about a lot of different fears, market challenges, everything, competitors, whatever. But from the technology itself, my biggest fear is quantum computing, because the basic principle of crypto relies on cryptography. And with the rise of quantum computing enables, if it succeeds, it enables you to crack seed phrases without that much effort. And so all your wallets out there will become unsecure. And so actually that's one of my biggest fears of the technology itself. I think there has already been, having said that, there's already been research and development going on to create quantum computing resistant technology for blockchains. So I do hope those things come around, because if quantum computing rises and really is able to crack seed phrases, then that's a big problem for all of us and for all our wallets. Thanks.
Yeah, so as for the fear, I do think it's, my answer is a little bit philosophical, but I think the fear is what you're seeing with the rise of central bank digital currency, right? This technology, if it's used in a very permission way and one way solely by the government, it opens a whole can of worms that can either be good or bad, right? That really depends on how the governments want to use it. So I think there's a lot of risk there that still needs to be explored, and we are starting to see perhaps how China is going to implement their digital yuan, and they can put expiration date on your money if you don't use it, right? Like, I think that opened a whole can of worms, and yeah, but that's one of my fear about the crypto tech itself.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, yes, there's someone over there, the gentleman.
This question is for Marco. This is Jitendra. I'm from Helix in Singapore. Marco, I happened to read your report this morning about RWA DeFi. Just wondering if you may, share some more insights in terms of how the overall adoption of RWA DeFi is shaping up, and how do crypto natives particularly see about deploying crypto assets into RWA?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for reading the report. So what we're seeing is, obviously, as I've previously said, it is one of the easier area for these big financial firms to enter. They have a lot of fiduciary responsibilities. They have to justify why they make every single move, unlike startups that can be agile. So when you pitch that, okay, now we can trade penthouses on the chains, and it's going to take much less time to settle, that interest is growing really big. And these stats, it's not from me, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, either BCG or Bank of America, but they said it's a 16 trillion opportunity by 2030, right? So just based on the fact of that alone, what we're seeing is that it's almost like a narrative shift, because the regulations are going after these truly more decentralized protocols and assets. Some of the providers for real world asset, whether they're tokenizing on public blockchains like Ethereum or on their own chain, they are making the pitch that perhaps right now it's a good time to look at us and sort of shift your focus away from what is going on with Binance and Coinbase. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, another question. Excellent. Keep the questions coming. That's great. I think we have time for one more, so we'll take that as the last question.
So, hello. I'll be from Ethiopia. It's a pretty simple question, actually. So, like, these days, like, we've been seeing in the DeFi section, like the meta these days, or like the new vertical that is sexy right now is LSD, right? So, it's a simple question. So, in your opinion, what's the next new verticals that's going to be sexy in the DeFi?
If I can repeat the question, what's the next vertical that's going to be sexy in DeFi?
Yep.
Oh, good question. Unfortunately, if I know that answer, I would also have deployed my capital there. It's a tough one to answer. I do think that one of the key principles, where I wanted to say this earlier when you were talking about opportunities in crypto, one of the really big problems that has not been solved for, I think, on chain is identity. And I think that's like a really interesting sector that needs to be solved for. Without identity being on chain, I think capital efficiency will remain low. Once you have identity, people can do a lot more different things in DeFi, including uncollateralized lending and like et cetera. Because without the trust of KYC of identity in place, like we can't do as many things as we can with trust. And if you think about the financial system with banking and everything, I think some of these principles in banking we also need to take into crypto and into on-chain, and I think that identity part is missing. So I think if we can solve for that, I think that'll be very interesting for crypto and for DeFi.
My answer on that is anything restaking or staking infrastructure. Eigenlayer, for those of you who are following, just launched their mainnet. I do have some concerns there because I think you're just rehypothecating consensus. But as we all know, the crypto markets are all they like something that is risky. And I think anything that has anything to do with staking infrastructures, whether that's more efficient liquid staking, a different way to approach a decentralized staking, or just restaking itself, I think that would be the next big thing.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, to wrap up our time, maybe just one quick answer from each of our panelists. The year is 2030, 7 years from now. Describe your vision for Web3 in Indonesia.
Well, I think 2030, my hope, my dream is that people in Indonesia will interact with Web3 and with DeFi very seamlessly. You don't even need to know that you're using blockchains to transact, whether it is for payments, whether it is to get a loan, whether it is to put a deposit and gain interest. All of these should be seamless to the end customer. And I think that's like one of the end goals that I hope we can achieve by 2030.
Not much different. I would say financial literacy, as well as a more effective way to move capital around in the country itself through crypto, or just better ways for people to raise funds and to collect capital and to decide what they want to do with it. So yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to our panelists. Thank you very much, Jeff and Marco.
Can we take a quick picture for the three of you? Round of applause, everybody, once more for our first panelist. Okay, for the second panelist, we're going to discuss more about layer twos. So without further ado, I want to invite our moderator, Olivia. Please come and join me, and also our panelists. So there's Jume and Akri. So a round of applause for the second panel, guys.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I would like to extend the warmest welcome to everyone to Pintu second builder event, which we also collaborate with Ethereum Indonesia Foundation. So thank you everyone for coming. I mean, you can be doing anything else, but you're here right now. So thank you very much for being here. So for the second session, actually, we're going to be zooming in a little bit because we were just talking about the blockchain in general for the first session. And the second one, we'll be talking more about layer twos. And you might be wondering, why are we talking about layer twos? And the reason is because layer two is actually one of the closest solution that we have here to implementing blockchain in real life situations, because they solve the problems that come with the blockchain technology, such as scalability, and also higher costs. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists today. So we have here on my left, Jume from Kyber Swap or Kyber Network. And we also have Akri from Parallax. And I'm going to hand the floor over to, maybe we start from Jume to introduce yourself, and then we go to Akri.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for inviting me for Pintu and Eds Indo. Yeah, I'm Jume. Currently, product manager at Kyber. Maybe some of you not familiar with Kyber, but Kyber basically is a DeFi aggregator. We try to aggregate multiple liquidity from various DEX, maybe similar to another top mines DeFi 1 inch if you use 1 inch, right? So I think Kyber already one of the OG on the DeFi ecosystem since 2017. Participate in ICO as well, 2017. If one of you participate, maybe you know it. But we are trying to revive our brand right now to become more than the DeFi aggregator. I think other than that, I think I also exploring a build project on top of layer 2, especially the upcoming layer 2 from Coinbase, Coinbase. Build just a simple project. It's called Odin Blue Chip DAO. It's just a DAO project for NFT enthusiasts. They want to acquire blue chip NFT. I think that's pretty much of me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Akri, you want to introduce yourself and Parallax?
Yeah. My name is Akhri. I'm from Parallax. I am one of the co-founder of Parallax and also product manager of Parallax. So Parallax is more like a think tank lab research. So we are partnering with other protocols to create more consumer products and deliver it in more sexiest way. So Parallax itself is more like a developers team, and we are researching to collapse 2 and more protocols into one single dApps, and it could be used and hopefully can adopt more users from Web2 to Web3. And we're also creating, and now we are on developing, creating a wallet that actually hiding blockchain itself from the user, so users can have a wallet simply by registering their phone numbers maybe, or email credential, social credential like Gmail and anything else. That's pretty much for me. Thank you.
Interesting. So that's maybe similar to what Jet was saying about his vision in 2030.
Yes,
Yeah?
exactly.
Okay. Thank you. So I guess we'll kick this off with I want to ask you guys, how do you see the state of DeFi currently? I mean, you guys are both working. You guys both own projects that actually develop on L2, right? I mean, HyperSwap is on Arbitrum, also on Optimism, and also Parallax, you're also developing on L2. So actually, it's interesting because I saw the data today that even though we are in bear market, actually the TVL for L2 only is actually increasing from 2021 to 2023. So I just want to know, like, from your experience and what you're seeing, are the numbers of developers increasing actually on L2?
So the developer itself, maybe it's more increasing right now. Yeah. We are not currently seeing any market sentiments. We just keep building, finding any more solutions for the adopting new adopters for blockchain, and also, we just like finding more solution. Keep building, just keep building. So we brought more developers in Web3. We introduced them a little bit Web3 so they can like finding their interest, like in DAO, maybe in smart contract, maybe in the blockchain itself.
Okay, that's good. Actually, that's very. I think it's very good news for everyone because L2, you still have faith in L2. You guys are still building, and and you think that L2 is going to be able to solve real world problems, right? Like it can bridge the consumers from Web 2 to Web 3. And so just going to a bit more technical. So maybe how do you, I mean, if you see L2, right, it's pretty complicated, but are you able to categorize them broadly into several groups, what types of L2 are out there, and maybe a bit of the pro and cons? Maybe we can start from Jume.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe we can a little bit step back, right? Why L2 is exists? Because L2 is exists because in Ethereum or in mainnet there is a challenge with scalability, and yeah, I mean this L2 is happen or created because of someone want to solve the scalability, right? So that's why there is a couple of approach how they can scale Ethereum itself. There are two popular approach. The first one is called it optimism approach, which is mostly Arbitrum and optimism is two of the popular optimism stack for layer 2. And another popular approach is ZK approach or zero knowledge approach, which is a recent popular layer 2 is ZK Sync. Both of the layer 2 has a different approach in terms of how they execute the scalability, right? If we talk about optimism, the pro is, it's a little bit easy to develop and implement, but maybe less, less secure compared to ZK Sync. But if ZK, they're a little bit hard to complete or to develop because they implement like a new cryptography called zero knowledge, right? That's why I think both of these layer 2 still competing right now. And yeah, that's the two type of layer 2 that really popular at the moment.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much similar. So L2 exists because they are solving scalability problem that cannot be solved by the Ethereum itself because they cannot sacrifice the decentralization properties and also the security. So they need L2 to scale up the transaction speed and else. So there are many types of L2. There are roll-ups that's been explained from Jume, and also there is sidechain. We usually know it is as a polygon matic, and there are also plasma chain and many things. But the scaling solution is only comes from the roll-up. It's have two types of roll-ups. There is optimism rollup and also ZK rollup. And the pro cons with the optimism rollup, they are kind of more centralized, but pretty much fast for the transaction speed. And the ZK itself, it's quite good, but yeah, just like Jimmy said, it's pretty much difficult to develop because the ZK itself is need special hardware to validate the proof. So both chains are storing their data in the L1, so they are pretty much secure and also stay decentralized in L1 Ethereum.
Okay, thank you. So just to summarize that, like the two main types of L2 that is popular, so just the two main types is the roll-ups, so including optimism, arbitrum, and ZK roll-up.
Yes.
And the second type is the side chains, which is like polygon matic. I think there's another one. I'm not sure if this is considered L2 solution, but Lightning Network Bitcoin.
Yeah,
they
it's
use
a plasma network.
Yeah, it's plasma, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's one of the popular ones. Okay, so so actually, what are you most excited about for L2 in the future? Like when the adoption actually already comes in, what is the use case that you were most excited about? We start from Jume.
Okay. Yeah, I think there is a lot of exploration right now about bringing blockchain to mass adoption, right? But something that might be really excited for me is if the enterprise can use layer 2 as a service, or they can deploy their own layer 2 blockchain, right, to do the settlement, to do the transaction. One example is, the analogy is, let's say layer 2 is a bank. Right now, the bank can do, the transaction for cross-border. They need like another protocol, right? Like it's Swift and so on. But let's say if they can deploy maybe their own ledger on top of layer 2, I'm just thinking that, it could be more seamless, and it could be there is a lot of possible interoperability with the crypto and the Web3. They can simply maybe deposit fiat, convert to stablecoin, and directly connect to the DeFi or Web3, right? I think maybe it is still not near a lot of time for that, but I'm really excited with this layer 2, especially for enterprise use case. Other than that, maybe we will see the use case of layer 2 for maybe social media use case. I think there's a couple of protocol like Lens, they deploy in Polygon, but they consider to have the kinda layer 2, maybe layer 3, they said. And there's also the use case for, private chain, right? Similar to the enterprise, but maybe they will have me as a developer. I can deploy my own layer 2, right? Or roll up as a service, or layer 2 as a service. I can use it to maybe store a transaction, create my own ledger, and create my own fintech letter, maybe. Based on the layer 2. So we don't need really a normal server or normal backend, but our backend right now backed by layer 2 or blockchain.
Okay, that's interesting. So microtransactions, private blockchain, and as a medium also to store data. Right? That's it. Okay. How about Akri?
Mungkin yang ini gue coba pakai bahasa Indonesia aja ya. Jadi use case yang menarik untuk L2 buat Parallax sendiri, kita lagi tertarik banget sama modular blockchain gitu ya. Kenapa? Karena kita pertama tahu masalah terbesar di Web3 blockchain sendiri itu bad UX ya, transaction speed, terus user mesti punya metode baru dari yang sebelumnya, dari mungkin kalau dia baru jumping dari Web2 ke Web3 dia mesti adaptasi dulu gitu ya, mesti belajar tentang wallet segala macam. Kita lagi pikirin gimana caranya untuk si user ini bisa onboard ke Web3 tanpa mereka harus tahu kalau ada blockchain sebenarnya di dalamnya gitu. Jadi mereka bisa nikmatin teknologi blockchain tanpa harus pikirin pusing simpen seed phrase di mana, gimana cara nyimpennya dan segala macam gitu ya, dengan yang tadi udah sempat gua jelasin soal wallet menggunakan create wallet menggunakan nomor handphone, OTP atau social credential lainnya gitu. Jadi kita lagi coba pikirin modular blockchain L2 di atas L1 Ethereum, yang mana nantinya security dan desentralisasinya juga kita andelin dari L1, mengandalkan konsensusnya L1 gitu. Tapi tetap scalable, harapannya bisa mengalahkan transaction speednya Visa gitu ya. Jadi semua tahapannya, semua prosesnya dalam user journey itu bisa seamless gitu sih.
Kalau boleh tahu, maybe TPS for Visa is, do you know how much? What's the TPS?
100,000, isn't it?
100,000.
Yeah, 100,000.
And how much
per second.
TPS do you think you can do?
Ya mungkin puluhan ribu aja udah cukup sih. Ya.
Okay.
Harusnya sih cukup ya. Harusnya sih cukup.
Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. So it's very interesting what you guys have already mentioned, because all of this use case can actually make our life so much easier. And so I think like a common question that someone will ask will be like, I already have Visa, why do I need to use blockchain to do my microtransactions and everything? I think that's going to be one of the questions that most people will ask. Itu jawabnya gimana kalau?
Okay. I think that's interesting question, right? So actually, right now, even Visa already consider, right, to use a blockchain, even consider use USDC as the settlement, right? So I think the question is not to maybe ditch Visa at all, but I think to figure it out what is the maybe best solution or best approach for existing problem, right? If people still comfortable using Visa, why we should solve it? Because it's already solution for them, right? Maybe we should find another vertical that work to solve and another problem that work to solve. I mean, yeah, maybe beyond payment, or it could be improve the existing infrastructure payment. They are already used by legacy financial like banking or payment. Like I mentioned earlier, there is a possibility the fintech could deploy their own server on top of layer 2, or even banking can deploy it on top of layer 2, right? And do a settlement by using a stable coin. Yeah, it could be USDC or IDRT, right? Or another stable coin, right? Or they can, maybe there is a possibility there is a new protocol that can facilitate cross-border transfer, because right now it's dominated by Swift. But yeah, but I believe Swift is want to move to blockchain as well, maybe later, right? I think to answer it simply, we might need to figure it out another area, another vertical that work to solve. Not only try to compete with existing player, because maybe they will also catch up. Yeah, I think. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's my point of view, because this blockchain space, if we talk about DeFi space, it's majority for crypto native right now, honestly. But for mass adoption, maybe some of the existing infrastructure, legacy infrastructure, will be upgraded into blockchain or Web3, right? Even is still used by or dominated by existing player. But maybe later we will see, maybe like GoPay that deploy on layer 2, maybe, or blockchain, or another fintech or another lending that deploy on layer 2 that can connect maybe global liquidity. Right now, if you do peer-to-peer lending, right, liquidity is controlled locally, right, in Indonesia only. The people that want to provide liquidity and lending is only in Indonesia. Imagine if the liquidity come from global, so more people can get access, right? More people can put liquidity and provide capital. Yeah.
I think there's a reason for why that is not happening, and I think it relates a lot to geographical boundaries and monetary policies of each respective country. So that's probably one of the challenges in the future. Okay, so actually, thank you a lot. I mean, this is like a very fruitful discussion. I guess one last question from me before we open the floor is, we have a lot of like L2 solutions right now, right? Like you said, like there's Arbitrum, there's Optimism, there's ZK rollups, there's Lightning Network. Do you think there is a need for all of these varieties, or do you think in the future we're gonna see like one winner, one dominant winner?
Kalau gue sendiri ngelihatnya mungkin kayaknya nggak akan ada satu winner gitu ya, karena L2 sendiri kayaknya punya solusinya masing-masing dengan caranya masing-masing untuk scaling L1 Ethereum gitu ya. Jadi harusnya nantinya bukan hanya ada satu winner, harusnya nanti akan ada berbagai macam-macam solusi yang berjalan secara harmoni bersamaan gitu ya, on the top of L1 Ethereum. Jadi harusnya mereka si L2 solution ini bisa jalan secara harmoni tanpa compete each other sih, gitu.
Okay, so just like Web2 lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like Web2.
Okay. I think my simple analogy for this one is maybe banking, right? So right now there is no one single banking, right? There's multiple banking, right? So it's been like, there's multiple ledger. So I believe in the future, the reality should be multi-chain, not only EVM compatible chain like Ethereum and L2, but it could be another blockchain like Solana, Atom with their own interoperability. I think, yeah, the reality should be multi-chain. That's why right now, one possible interesting idea, if you want to develop DeFi, right, to create a cross-chain bridge product, right? Because whenever you want to switch chain, you can always offer a small fee, right? If you analogy the existing business that already happened in Indonesia, you can see Flip, right, in Indonesia. Flip try to make a maybe free transaction between bank to another bank, right? It could be another product as well. They're already growing right now in the L2 or in multi-chain ecosystem. Cross-chain bridge. Whenever you have a token on Ethereum, you can bridge to another chain, and you can always take a small fee on top of that. And I'm seeing that, yeah, cross-chain, yeah, one of the vertical that may be worth to explore, and yeah, that could be profitable as well if the volume of the cross-chain bridge and yeah, the transaction of cross-chain bridge is higher over the time. And yeah, I think that's one of possible feature that I see.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So I guess everyone, it's open to you now. Do you have any questions? Please raise your hand, introduce yourself, and ask your question.
Bahasa Inggris Indonesia?
Terserah.
Mandarin ya.
Yang enak.
Oke, perkenalkan nama gue Andreas dari Sir Morpheus, dari Aset Crypto World juga ada. Jadi pertanyaan gue adalah, kita tahu ya, Ethereum itu kedepannya menuju ke sharding. Kalau sharding itu TPS-nya kayak mungkin 100.000, 200.000 segala macam. Nah, pertanyaan gue adalah ketika nanti Ethereum udah sampai sharding gitu kan ya, L2 ini gimana? Karena transaksi udah murah, transaksi udah cepet, then what's the point of L2, mungkin L3? Kayak gitu sih. Thank you.
Oke. Kalau menurut gue gini ya, sharding itu kan sekarang masih proses gitu ya. Kita emang menuju ke sana gitu. L1 itu memang menuju ke sana. Harapannya kalau udah nyampe sana, transaksi limit jadi lebih besar, lebih cepat, lebih murah. Terus pertanyaannya nanti L2 kepake nggak nih? Udah ditinggalin orang-orang gitu ya. Jadi sebenarnya L2 sendiri karena masing-masing punya caranya sendiri untuk scaling gitu ya. Jadi mereka nggak hanya ngebantu Ethereum untuk offload the transaction, terus mereka execute and then kirim balik datanya ke L1. Kayak ada ZK rollups itu juga lumayan menarik untuk di riset lebih dalam gitu ya tentang ZK proofnya, terus ada ZK syncnya. Jadi nggak hanya untuk sekedar offloading transaction aja, tapi juga macam-macam karakternya si L2 ini yang tetap kayaknya akan berguna di kedepannya. Terus kalau udah nanti sharding terus TPS-nya makin gede di L1, gua rasa usernya Ethereum juga harusnya membesar sih. Jadi kita tetap membutuhkan L1 untuk kita tetap membutuhkan L2 untuk ngebantu L1 offload the transaction. Gitu sih menurut gua.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, that's a really hard question to answer, but there is also a possibility, right? Ethereum cannot achieve that, right? I mean, in reality, right now, Ethereum is like maybe like 11. They slow move, slow innovate, but the main concern is security. So there is always, I think, the impact in terms of the trilemma, which is you need to concern on security, decentralization, but also on scaling. But you cannot achieve at 3 at the same time, right? I still believe that if Ethereum able to achieve that, maybe there is also existing user that are already comfortable using L2, then they are fine with that because of they trust it and also the experience, user experience. But again, my analogy against like bank, right? If you already comfortable using this bank, even this bank is small, maybe you also don't consider it to move to the big bank, right? Because you're just comfortable to use it. Why you should move it? Despite the bank is maybe faster, maybe have more feature, but you already comfortable use it. There is a switching cost for you, especially if you are a business, if you are running something on top of that. So I think in the future, for me, yeah, despite Ethereum already achieved the ideal condition, I'm still believe that, yeah, maybe the existing L1 or even the L2, right? They still have getting traction and getting adoption because they try to offer different value proposition, right? And they already have maybe user, they're already comfortable to use it. Yeah, I think that's my point of view.
Okay, maybe one last final question. Anyone? Okay, so if there's no more question, I think we can wrap up the second session. I would like to thank you again, Jume and Akri, for joining our panel. And thank you, everyone. Please enjoy the rest of the night.
Thank you.
Can we take a picture first?
Thank you very much.
Foto. Thank you. Round of applause, everybody, for our second panelists. Okay, so we did wrap up our sessions for tonight, but we do still have a lot of time, a lot of food, a lot of drinks. So please do enjoy the rest of the night to network together. So the main purpose of this event is to network and to get to know each other. So we hope you enjoyed our sessions, and we will absolutely notify you guys if you have another one of our iterations in our BUIDLRS Lounge. But for tonight, thank you guys so much for attending. See you again for the next